Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. We got some more Reddit stories to check out today, so be sure to like and subscribe and let's get into it. Karen's rant on town's Facebook backfires. I work at a rather famous home supply and maintenance store. I won't say the name just in case, but to set the scene, a month or so ago, Karen and her husband came in to buy an appliance. They happened to come on a very busy day, and we only had 2 people in appliances, one of whom was going on her lunch. Well, apparently, Karen wasn't happy that a couple of men who'd already been waiting there were served ahead of her, and pitched a tantrum. Even going so far as to go up to the girl leaving for her lunch, who was no longer in uniform and was talking to another employee, and berating her for ignoring her. The girl told her multiple times she wasn't on the clock, and Karen informed her it didn't matter, she would help her right then. The girl told her she could wait or take her business elsewhere, and went about her business. This apparently pissed off Karen and her husband, as he proceeded to call customer service. I happened to be covering their desk, and began yelling at me that he was a GD man, and that if we were gonna serve other men before his wife, we would quote, "f***ing serve him first." I laughed at him, said that's not how things work, and hung up the phone. We don't take abuse at my store. I definitely refuse to, and the managers generally support us in that. The funny part? Our town has a local Facebook page where you can post reviews and events, and Karen decided to make a massive post about what happened. Only she actually didn't. She twisted it so that it seemed she had been purposely ignored. She hadn't. She just didn't want to wait in line. Denied service. She wasn't. She'd confronted and cursed out a teenage employee who was off the clock. And she and her husband had been verbally abused by, quote, every employee in the store. They had spoken to the girl and to me, and neither of us abused them. We were both abused. Of course, at first, she got sympathy from a lot of women of the same mentality. A lot of "no one wants to work anymore" comments. But one of our cashiers happened to be told about it, and showed me. I'm petty, I'll admit it beforehand, but I made a fake Facebook account. I don't do social media much beyond lurking on Reddit, and joined the town's page. Needless to say, I first commented, in explicit detail, everything that actually happened, including direct quotes from the other girl. Then to sink the "f*** you Karen" knife a little deeper, I copied my post and replied to every comment on her post. This isn't actually what happened. What happened was, insert comment here. Within moments, the entire town turned on her. Hundreds of comments calling her a liar and a horrid person. The next morning, the post was gone, and she's never returned to our store. Was I a bit of a Karen myself? Maybe, but when it comes to my fellow employees, I tend to fight petty fire with petty fire. And thanks to this situation and several more since then, I've become the go-to for dealing with Karens and rude customers when my coworkers can't get a hold of a manager. No way this can end badly, right? One thing I'll never understand is how people can actually get satisfaction from getting sympathy for a completely made-up story. But no, I don't think OP was being petty at all. They were really just trying to tell the truth. Especially when such BS is being said about you and your coworkers. Yeah, it's totally fair to actually want to set the record straight. Nothing petty about that, in my opinion. Airport shenanigans with an entitled mom. Yesterday I had to attend some work on last-minute notice. Work usually covers business class on these transcon routes from Melbourne to Perth, which allows me to get a few reports finished from the day before. Check reports coming in, emails, Excels, and other things done. QF on the day had no seats in all classes in the morning. Had to settle with VA, to which I am fine with. I think they are one good airline in Australia. The only seats at the time of booking was a few middle seats in the back of the aircraft. Got 26E for this 4-hour flight in a 737. Could be worse. Arrived at the airport a bit later than what I'd usually arrive at. Late 7 a.m. Flight at 9:15. I'll try to arrive 2.5 to 3 hours prior to departure, to get some work in the QF lounge if I'm flying QF. Did the whole hoo-ha going through check-in, security, quick coffee, and off to the gate for boarding. Nothing spontaneous here. Reading the New York City Times and the Washington Post to get my Murica news before I head off west. I was one of the last passengers to board. Made my way down the jet bridge, waited at the door and got into the aircraft, and walked down all the way to the back, where I met my seat buddies for the trip. A woman in her late 30s, early 40s in that bogan haircut style, with her little shit in the window seat. I chucked my suitcase and briefcase in the overhead lockers before asking her to move. For context and clarification, she booked the aisle and the window, probably expecting that the window seat would be available. The flight was full and I was stuck in the middle. No response. Asked her again. No response. Asked her one more time. A response. I have booked the middle seat. Have you checked your boarding pass? In the most bitchiest voice I have ever heard in the last decade. I proceeded to show her my boarding pass and pointed above to the seat number sticker. Well, I booked this seat. Find another seat, she said. Now the flight is at this point fully booked, and I have no other options but to sit here. Her kid is grinning to the moon and my anger is ticking up bit by bit. I woke at 4:45 a.m. and I am not in the mood to have a fight at 9 in the morning. I told her that the flight was full, and she gave me another response. I don't have the time to speak to you. Go find a seatmate. Do you need me to explain how this industry works? At this point, my eyes are wide open and my anger meter is starting to click up. I am the last one standing, and the cabin crew are walking down the aisle to see what is taking so damn long. Sir, any issues here? The cabin crew asked me. Nothing, just trying to let her know that I am trying to get into my seat, I said. I have booked this seat. He is sitting in the wrong seat, said the mom. Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to let this gentleman sit in his seat. Please get up into the aisle so he can come in. No, he has probably printed a fake ticket. That's not possible. He could not have got through boarding the aircraft without a valid ticket. Stop lying and get off this plane, the mom said to me. Ma'am, I'm gonna ask you again. Get out of your seat and let this gentleman into his seat. The cabin crew said to entitled mom. No response from the mom. We're gonna be all morning, I said to the cabin crew. I'm going to ask you one last time. Get out of your seat and let this gentleman into this seat. Entitled mother at this point gives up and I get into my seat. 10 minutes of bickering and we are pushing back out of Melbourne T3 out to Perth. AirPods go in, listen to some orchestra recordings by the MSO, and I am checking the latest ASX reports coming in. We get going off to Perth, and I am waiting for my drink while I sit back and answer a few morning emails from my work colleagues. The kid has been quiet, watching some kids' TV shows, and entitled mom has been watching a movie, being grumpy as all hell. Breakfast service begins. At this time, I'm just wanting another coffee, along with a quiche, I think. It was pretty average economy class food. The kid starts to wind up. He eats his food in 0.001 microseconds, and I haven't even touched my quiche yet, let alone my precious coffee. Now, if a kid is polite and asks me for food, I will not hesitate and give them my food. I don't eat it, working on a diet anyway after COVID lockdowns. This kid nearly punches me on my arm and demands in that Karen-esque voice, "Give me your food now." Now I am getting pissed again. I am not getting tossed around by a kid. I firmly tell him, no, and take the quiche and eat it in one bite, and grin. Then the nuclear bomb was set off across Australia. Murder! The kid screams 5 times. The crying started. At this point, I'd rather be next to a baby on a 14-hour flight, compared to the 2 minutes of absolute crying from this kid next to me. His mother, automated reaction mode, decided that the best course of action is to slap my face. She did it in almost slow-mo. Didn't hurt a bit. After the boarding incident, the cabin crew have been watching us very closely for the past hour, and when the bomb went off, they were on their way. People next to us were side-eyeing us for the past hour, and burst out laughing when the kid went off. When people registered when the kids said murder, they also burst out laughing, almost like a late show reaction. At this point, I am done. I get up, step over her, and take a few steps to the back of the aisle. Entitled mother is screaming words I can't even recognize. Her kid is calming down, but Jesus, he's still going off to the moon. Then the cabin crew came in, almost laughing, but remained a military pissed off face. The first cabin crew told both of them to shut the f*** up. Not literally, but you get the gist. The second came with snacks for the kid. And the third from behind told me to get my bags and follow him, once the screaming ended. Turned out there was a no-show at boarding in seat 2D. I was pretty happy. When they calmed down, I passed through the aisle and said right next to her to the cabin crew, 2D, just up there behind the curtains, am I right? Yup, that's you. Entitled mom looked in shock, frustration, anger, and hate, almost like Palpatine. And she wanted to complain, but I think she got the picture to shut up. And that's the end of the event. I landed in Perth and got a taxi to my hotel. What a flight. Landed 2 hours ago in Melbourne. Apologies for any bad grammar. 4 hours of sleep last night at the hotel. And thankfully didn't see her. Neighbor bought and parked 10 cars on the street to try and stop road work. So last year, the town board put to a vote a proposal to upgrade the town's water mains, sewage, and bury the power lines. The town's residents voted to approve this venture, and the vote came back with only 3 of the voters voting no. The town put out notices about 3 months ago that they will have to shut down my street, as the ground will have to be completely ripped up to do this work. The town is very old and the asphalt was laid over an old dirt road, and was never done properly. You don't know potholes until you've been stuck in one. They will be doing things the right way as far as I can tell. My street will be one of the first streets to be worked on, as the plan is to work on multiple areas at once. Their goal is to finish the entire neighborhood in 3 to 5 years. You know, government work. So with all that in mind, my neighbor, who is a right piece of work, and the wealthiest guy in a very rich neighborhood, has opposed this plan from the beginning. He has allegedly filed suit against the town for the inconvenience this will cause him. He also has publicly threatened to sue for the noise this will create. He is actually the reason this didn't go through 5 years ago, when it was first proposed, as he kept interrupting every board meeting. Well, this morning on my way into work, I saw about 6 cars parked in front of his house. I called my wife at lunchtime to talk about life and parenting stuff. She asked me if I saw the cars that our neighbor parked on the street. I asked if he was having a St. Patrick's Day party. She said no. My wife, who needs a hobby other than gossiping, said she found out he plans on leaving them on the street with flat tires and chained together so the road crews can't work. I responded with, I guess I should call the board and volunteer my tow truck and bolt cutters. What does this guy hope to gain here? Edit. I will post a follow-up next week sometime. We shall see what happens on Monday when the construction crews start working. I drove past the 10 cars, all with no license plates and all tires from what I can see are flat. The construction company is a customer of mine, so this should be good. The owner is the other word for donkey. And I've been waiting for an update on this, but it's been way longer than a week and he hasn't updated yet, as per usual on Reddit, so that's why I decided to just go ahead and read it now. I'll keep an eye out for an update, but I wouldn't count on it. That is it for today, friends. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, be sure to hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So I'm out of here, have an awesome day, and until next time.